agreeing for an interview with SlyMedia. People would want to know politically, just in brief, who is Elias Mudzuri?
Oh, that's a big one. Elias Mudzuri is a 63-year-old man, an engineer by profession, a fellow of the Institution of Engineers, a politician who has been in the MDC since its inception. Up to today, I'm still in the MDC, which was formed and started by none other than our icon, Richard Morgan Chakrai. And I've been in the party trying to work with everyone to ensure that we bring change to Zimbabwe. And the change we are talking about is change about culture, change about the way of doing things, change in institutions that make us do best practice, which is practiced elsewhere in the world. And that's why we've adopted democratic means to do that. So Elias Mudzuri has been, as an engineer, he has been mayor of Harare, he has been MP, he has been a senator, he has been organizing secretary, he has been vice president and acting president of MDC. So he has been almost in most of the positions, and I've been secretary in different portfolios within the MDC where we write policies that enhance the work of MDC.
The change that we are talking about mainly, it is to do with the regime change in Zimbabwe. When you formed MDC, it became an opposition party, and obviously you wanted to get into power. But the change that is happening now is within your party, MDC. Are you happy?
I can't be happy with any change that I'm not sure of the outcome. But the real change which we are talking about in the country is not just MDC getting to power. The change is changing the lives of Zimbabweans to ensure that everyone feels comfortable in the country. The same is the change in my political party. Everyone must feel comfortable in the political organization they stay in, and make sure that they also can articulate what they think without fear or favor or being attacked. So change should not just be change of government. If we say we want to change ZANU-PF for the sake of changing ZANU-PF, we have failed. Or if we say we just want to change the MDC culture for the sake of changing it, it doesn't make sense. The change must be acceptable, must be real, must have values, must have direction, must be acceptable by the downtrodden and the rich. Everyone must be able to, and by different cultures. That is the change I'm looking at.
But it seems it's different. There's so much infighting within MDC.
Yeah, it sends me worried if you check on my tweets that we shouldn't be fighting at all. What you are talking about is going back to the present judgment which came. The judgment which came through demoted me to an executive member. But I had to accept the judgment because those who went to court, I didn't go to court. Those who went to court needed a judgment. And once a judgment comes, you cannot throw it away. You have to accept it and use it. But the way we should work on it is to make sure that we find our way of uniting, coming together. We talk to each other and see where we've gone wrong, where we've done things right, and then we make things better. And everyone feels comfortable. This attacking of each other every day, so and so is a sellout, so and so is a sellout. Who is not a sellout if everyone who differs with you becomes a sellout? Because when someone has done wrong, they must also introspect and see what they've done wrong. You as a journalist, you know, you have witnessed what went through since Morgan died. There are different things that you can also see that might not be right. Politics is not always about being right, but it's also about making sure that you move as a grouping. And that grouping, if it's disturbed, a lot of people worry about what they've contributed. This is 20 years of commitment to an organization. Then tomorrow, some who might have traveled out come and bully those who have been in, out, like they are not supposed to be there. It becomes a problem. And also, when we change our own rules for the sake of someone benefiting, an individual, then it doesn't become an organizational thinking. That's why organizations have constitutions or some form of memorandum that brings them together. And that document becomes your legal document to work with. How you form, how you dissolve, how you work, and who does what in that organization, just like a company.
You talked about uniting members of your party, and as you rightly said, soon after the judgment, there's a lot of bickering or of words between the two parties. Do you foresee a situation, as one who has been in the MDC for 20 years, you as comrades coming together, sitting on the same table, share a cup of tea and say, this is what we are supposed to do, besides just as individuals appearing in the press, attacking each other?
You see, if you talk to me, I've been attacked even in the press when there was nothing. There were no differences. There was a time when I was attacked at Sheraton by my own colleagues. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Was that necessary to attack me at my age in public? I'm asking you. I've been attacked when we went for a demonstration by my colleagues at a rally, just to say we don't want to, you just attack Mudzuri. And then tomorrow you attack Douglas, and tomorrow you attack Nelson, or you attack whoever is being attacked. Is it necessary? What I'm trying to tell you is the attack is not coming now. The attack has been there for many months since Morgan died. The attack was at Morgan's funeral. A lot of us didn't attend the funeral properly. We're under threat. So there is a lot that happened at that funeral that you journalists, you might not want to know, but you know it, that there is a lot that happened. When it went through, it was in my conscience to say, can we do this when we are burying our own father? Do you want to be absent when you are burying your own father? I couldn't see where Morgan was planted because I was threatened. I ended up being told to leave that place. I didn't go to see him. I only went to see his grave after Morgan had been buried a year later when we went for the memorial service. But I'm asking you, is it good for a person to be threatened by your own colleagues, not by a stranger? You are locked in a room, then you are told now you are safe, you are guarded somewhere. So there are so many things that have happened that are paining us. But then we don't want to wash our linen in public. You've never heard me talk about this. People talk about Coupe being bent in one. I myself and Love Momo were locked in another room, being threatened. So those processes, you are supposed to be bearing your icon, whom you say has left everything. When he died, he actually asked me to unite people and work together. I've never wanted to attack anyone in public because we need to come together. I see us finding ourselves, if we introspect and cleanse ourselves of the debt. Normally when you talk of people who have gone through trauma, you say they need, what do you call it, some form of healing. MDC people need healing right now because the trauma that some of them go through, it's terrible when they are being attacked by your own people. First of all, you were attacked by ZANU. I've gone through a lot. My family has gone through a lot being attacked by ZANU. Now I'm being attacked by my own colleagues for just thinking differently, for not agreeing to say this is not right, for accepting that if a judgment says this, how are we going to survive in this country if we don't abide to the courts which govern us? There are three arms of government, by the way: parliament, executive, and judiciary. So if you can't work with these three, then why do you go to court? Now I'm being attacked for saying, look, we have to sit down and look at this judgment in the face. We have to agree how best we handle this judgment. We have to agree how we come together as people under MDC Trangirai, because the agreement which we went to elections with was under a party called MDC Tsvangirai. That's why you find Komichi being said the chairman. He went representing MDC Tsvangirai to court, and he was defending the court as the chairman, and he's being asked to run a congress by the same court as a chairman of MDC Tsvangirai. So sometimes we enjoy attacking each other instead of sitting and saying, okay, we might have differed. How do we get together? How do we reconcile so that we don't have a bad legacy? What sort of legacy do we have in a political party where the first president dies and we don't have a smooth transition to elect a next leadership? We violate the constitution in our own way. So we must look at it in that manner and say, let's just correct it. Let's come together. Let's say, okay, Elias, you did wrong here. Nelson, you did wrong here. We introspect. We say, okay, after all this, just like the Rhodesian days, Smiths, all 15 years were nullified. They had to go to Britain and spend months negotiating. It's time to sit down and negotiate and say, what have we done wrong as one family? Then we'll be able to move. Otherwise, there is nothing that will correct shouting in the media. It will not help us.
But Senator Mudzuri, what you are saying and what is on the ground from the two camps is different. The moment the judgment is ruled and is made public, the first thing that we have or we see from the other camp is to go on the other camps, on the other members' throat. For example, recalling other members of parliament. I'm just giving one as an example. Then you are talking of sitting down and reconciling. You're talking of sitting down and uniting the party. In your own view, fast forwarding, what is happening? Does it show signs of reconciling members or dividing the party further at the present moment?
You see, why it has gone to that extent is because people are stuck with I wouldn't call it lack of maturity, but I would say lack of understanding governance and state craftsmanship. This judgment, as I'm saying, needed to be looked at together as MDC, because this judgment came and it was defied. Nelson appealed, and after an appeal, it came out with the same judgment. So what I'm now saying is, it's for us together with Nelson and others to say, what do we do? But now, you find the others who are so harsh on the media. They attack each other. They are calling others sellouts. Where do you find Beat finding his place in MDC left by Tsvangirai? Because he only came recently. Where do you find Welshman? Where do you find Job Scholar? Now they are saying they are firing me. They are now firing me as I've never gone out of the party. They've gone out and come back. So maybe they expect me to go and come back. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in the party that was founded, and the first president was Morgan Tsvangirai. So we need to come together, all those people who have been there. Then we agree, we have a proper alliance. We have an agreement where the first thing is don't attack those you have been with. Then you call the rest. There are things that have happened that we don't want to over talk on the phone. We need to sit together. And I insisted that any cadre who has been in MD, including you as a journalist, you should know that there could be mediators even who want to help and say, you look at this, don't run away from this. You cannot win this country by merely shouting and saying, I don't want the Supreme Court judgment, I don't want a Constitutional Court judgment, I don't want a magistrate judgment, but still you are an officer of the court.
Yeah, but Honorable Mudzuri, let's still go back to the issue of uniting the party and reconciliation. The judgment refers you back to 2014, is it?
Yeah.
Then where was BT, Scala and Welshman in 2014?
Because I'm saying this is talking about MDC Tsvangirai. It went into this area the day Tsvangirai died. If you want to know, I was the last person who saw Tsvangirai. I was in South Africa. I gave a statement when he says go and unite the people. 7 days later, he was dead. Okay? No one saw Tsvangirai who is in the senior member of the party other than myself. So don't say where was BT, where was we have an alliance agreement which brings BT, Welshmen, and including Guchutu and others. There are 7 political parties in that alliance. So we still need to agree first on the method we did in our transition from death of Tsvangirai to the coming up of Nelson to become the president of the party. It's not about popularity, it's about the process. If Mnangagwa says I'm important, I'm popular because I got so many votes, whether I got it, how I got them, we don't know. But if he says that no election, that doesn't work. You follow your constitution. So the constitution says we should have gone for a congress. Why don't we go for it? What is our problem in going? I want you as a journalist to address why did we avoid the congress? If we avoided it and we are told by a court to say, you must do this, that will help you to heal. These factions, there is a faction for Kupe, there is a faction for which is now calling itself an alliance. Then there is other people who are left behind because they didn't follow what was happening. So they need to be talked to. And that is what we need within this time to go to a congress, to choose one person. It's only one person to replace Tsvangirai. Then we can do the rest.
I understand what you are saying. The issue why I'm so interested in the unity and reconciliation, you are the one who mentioned it. That's why I referred you back to say
unity
in 2014.
Is a process,
yes.
Which takes you willing partners.
Yes.
That's why I'm appealing to my colleagues. We are not enemies.
So
we are phoning each other to say, let's meet.
On the colleagues that you are appealing,
Yeah.
are you saying I'm appealing to Nelson?
Yes,
but
I've phoned you.
Yes, wait. I'm appealing to Nelson. I'm not appealing to BT. I'm not appealing.
No.
Yeah.
BT is not in this equation. It's not part of the judgment.
Okay.
He has already said it. Don't ask me about what doesn't belong to the judgment. The judgment doesn't talk of BT or Welshman. That's a different alliance. I said, go and read our constitution. Go and read the judgment. The judgment is talking of MDC Tsvangirai, which was part of the alliance agreement, which actually says the person who could only become president of that alliance could come from MDC Tsvangirai. That was our pact. Then a party was gonna go to an election as a party. Then after the election, each party will lead its own MPs, and they would have their own caucuses. It's there in the agreement. We have a pact with these guys. So if we want another pact where we now agree, it doesn't need to start from a nullity. We have to get our president and do the constitutional rights in the MDC Tsvangirai. T is not, it's a symbol for elections. The constitution says MDC. There is no MDC T. So let's not confuse these things. Now, once we do that, we talk those who have been with Morgan and do a proper understanding. Whether Chamisa becomes president, whether someone else, it's healthier for us, and that brings unity. Then we'll be able to talk to the other. How do you choose dialogue with the next person when you don't have dialogue with your own? Even before you talked of the challenges of withdrawing each other, I'm told I was being withdrawn before. There were 2 withdrawal letters in Parliament. So people were attacking to say, let's just remove, because you don't like my face. Is it because you like my face or you don't like? The unity only comes when people introspect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. No one is perfect. But our mistakes must be corrected. And once we sit and relook at that judgment to say, what are you doing about where you at? We agree. Whatever we will agree as a unit under MDC, whose first president was Morgan and went up to 2014 elections. Then we move. Then we call Tendai. We already have some understanding. We've been part of. We talk to Welshmen. We've been together. But let not them bully others to say, we don't want you. You are now a sellout. When they went out, they were called sellout. Who is not a sellout then? How do we know they came to build the party when they are coming to say, you are Mudzuri, I don't want you, Mudzuri and Gudi, Komija and Gudi, whoever is with them, they are sellouts. When they left, they were also attacking Morgan. They also fired Morgan. So let's not take one side and say these have become saints. There's no saint. That's why we need to sit down and also accommodate our colleagues after we've all agreed first. Family.
You said during his last days, the late Morgan Tsvangirai said, go and unite the party. What was wrong? What was happening?
Because there were factions. He just said, try to unite the factions. He says, you are an elderly person, try to unite them. If anything happens, you go to an extraordinary Congress to him. But try to unite them while I'm in hospital until I come back. He says, you are going to that was my first time to act as a president. Work and do this. It was just like an instruction. That is when I started going around the banks. He says, do what I would do and do anything so that we prepare for elections and even go to the extent of looking for parliamentarians. He gave me that. But I've never attacked anyone because I'm looking for a united MDC. I don't hate anyone. I want us to be together. If anything, we must sit and talk. There's nothing that beats dialogue. But dialogue doesn't mean you might agree. But with time, you might agree. So, we have been one family. But these attacks mainly come from people who don't understand that sometimes. I don't want to attack anyone. I don't want to attack anyone. I want us to talk.
Mm-hmm. And soon after the judgment, you've tried to reach out to Nelson Chamisa. And what has been his response?
I phoned him. I said, let's talk about the judgment. I'm still waiting for him. He says he might talk to me later. He hasn't phoned me. I phoned him directly. I phoned a number of leaders. I didn't phone all. I phoned most of the leadership to say, let's talk. And let's look at this judgment in the face. Let's not think to run away. We can't wish it away because we are living in a country with laws. What is rule of law? Rule of law, and why do even, most of our leaders whom we work with, they are lawyers. And they seem to go to court more often, and then they choose which judgment. I'm an engineer. If I want to construct a bridge, I want a bridge that people cross. But I don't want to just go to court for the sake of going. You are not forced to go to any court. And I don't want to go to courts because if I don't believe in them, I don't go there.
Honorable Mudzuri, in terms of dialogue, and you also say you've called quite a number of leaders within your party, including the current Secretary General, Douglas Monzora. The same Douglas Monzora is now having the pen right into the parliament to recall. Is there a chance that you have called him and say, Douglas Monzora, what you are doing is dividing the party further when we want to sit down and have a dialogue and build our party? Mistakes have been done, fair and fine. But is this how we solve our problems going forward?
But you should ask the same question, Kuna Wende.
But let's
Wende had written a letter to withdraw Douglas. Wait.
Senate, this interview is on you, not on Wende. So,
no, but
if I'm going to ask him, it's another. Let's set it for another day. This is a question which is directed to you as someone who wants to unite the party. The people that follows you wants to hear your voice, not Wende's voice. I want you to have your opinion on the issue that is happening there. As someone who wants to unite the party, if you don't want to answer that, fine. I'll go and talk to Wende and have his position.
No, but this, I don't. Yeah. You are not responding to my. I'm responding to a question to say, why is Douglas Monzora doing this? Douglas Monzora didn't want to withdraw anyone, but when they wanted to withdraw him first, that's what he told me. So he had to withdraw the other first. There's no one who's competing to withdraw anyone except the other side, which started by wanting to withdraw. It was, I'm told it's myself. When they wanted to withdraw myself, Monzora and the chairman Komich, then we have said we don't want to withdraw parliamentarians. Why should we? We want them to work. Their jobs is to work within their constituencies. Right now it's time of COVID. I have said we don't need to withdraw many parliamentarians. Those who are, of course, going to extremes in terms of attacking each other, maybe it becomes difficult. But I don't see the reason why, because they must now go to government and ask it to answer. We are less than 1/3 of parliamentarians. We must make this government account, especially this time of COVID. They must be able to bring whatever is necessary. They must be able to bring the food to the hungry people who have not been going to work. They must be able to bring the medication wherever necessary. This is the time for MPs to go and face government, not to pretend that we are for Monzora, or we are for Wende, or we are for Mudzuri, or we are for Chamisa. This is the time for them to represent the ordinary person who is in the village or in the street.
I want to go back to my questions. You've answered that Wende wanted to withdraw you.
That's what I'm told.
Yes. Okay. You were told that Wende wanted to withdraw you and others.
Yeah, and
then
Monzora wanted to react as well, wanting to withdraw the other. I don't know where.
Yes.
I'm not in that grapevine, but that is what happened.
My question now is, Monzora still has the powers to recall MPs from the parliament. My question is, you as the senior member of the parliament, of MDC, if he continues to do that, do you think it's okay within your party? Do you think that will help in uniting MDC? Let's forget about Wendy. Let's talk about the person who now has the powers. Not that you like him or you don't like him.
No, but the power is not his. The power is with the MDC, which was left by Morgan Tsvangirai. People must talk and find a way of finding each other. That was my initial answer, and I'm looking for that. I don't enjoy anyone getting out of parliament. I don't want that to happen. As a senior member, those people have worked in their own different ways. Whether they went there by whatever hook or crook means, but they are there representing MDC. There is a group that represents Tsvangirai. There is a group that represents Welshman. There is a group that represents Tendai Beat. That is, it is clear they are there. That's why it was an alliance. So today we don't want to lose more, because we must hold this government to account. But if we are not going to hold this government account, and someone continues to fight and says, if you call Monzora a sellout, do you think you will have peace? Or if I call Chamisa a sellout, do you think you will have peace? This is why there is this. We should all, me and you, as a journalist, say, let's have senses. Let's meet and talk. Let's also even find mediators. Those who think they are closer, they can bring us together. Then we start talking about the future of MDC. This is the biggest party, opposition party in the country, which I believe has a future. And that future only comes when people have sanity. They are not selfish. When they are not selfish, they talk about how they are going to manage their differences. But they are not managing. They call me Dara or Kura, but sometimes wisdom is not in just fighting Kungombe. Wisdom is also in saying, Musarwa Kungombe, come. Kanamada, how do you resolve your issues? How do you resolve issues? I'm not bitter. I want people to come together. And that is critical. But when you come to others, don't come with a clear mind that you want to make sure the organization goes. Those who are making too much noise have not been in the trenches for 20 years. Those who have been in the trenches are quiet. Ask them. They are not talking too much because they know they are losing something they love. And that's why we need to talk.
And from Madame Coupe, after the judgment was announced, obviously you also reached out to her. What has been your response?
She says she has been put there by the courts, and a job is to make sure that we go through the election, the extraordinary Congress. She has said also her other party, by virtue of the judgment, the other party has been dissolved. But I think she still needs to announce that she's no longer following that outfit, because she cannot be vice president and president on the other side. To me, she can't be both. And also, she should be calm and make sure that she really genuinely wants to help us to go to the extraordinary Congress. But the judgment gives two possibilities. It says Coupe It's like going to the rhodesian front days. It's like she was the elected vice president there. You carry over. But in case the court gives a rider that in case she doesn't do it in 3 months, then the chairman who has been representing the party all along in the court as MDC, which is coming, she must do must run the Congress, which in our hierarchy says president, vice president, then chairman. The chairman, Love Momo, has resigned. So all these things need to be looked at. I don't think there is anything we can't do if we sit down and talk. There is a lot that we can do to make sure that we end up with a meaningful, united MDC.
So who is going to start the dialogue?
We have been talking, don't worry. There are people who throw brickbats. People are going to talk. There are those who are in the extreme who think they are losing positions.
Talking and actions are different. That's why I was continue referring you to the issue of dividing the party, of which I don't think you are hitting the nail on the head on issue of someone in a aggrieved party because he wanted to be recalled. Then you're talking about dialogue, you're talking about uniting. Then the same people that I think are much obviously closer to you continue to divide the party. They are putting you in a tight position.
Who is closer to me?
Because if Douglas Mudzuri, from what we heard, continue to write to the parliament, and then you want those people again to come and sit, let's be honest with each other. From my own opinion as a journalist, I don't think that is bringing together the party.
But you are now taking personalities. This is not about a personal thing. I don't like taking personalities to this. No, I don't have a personal friend in this. I don't have. I am a leader. I'm looking at answers. Answers are not easy to get. And in leadership, actually,
Yes.
if you lead simple things, then you are not a leader. A leader goes to difficult things. This is a difficult thing that you and me need to think how best it's resolved. And I'm telling you that the answer is we need to talk to each other.
Yes.
And if I'm talking to you and you ignore me, I can't force you. You have your democratic right not to listen to me if you don't want. So don't take as if one becomes the devil and the other becomes a saint. There is no saint here. We are one family. We must talk to each other.
No, I was trying to distinguish the difference between.
But if you attack me, maybe I attack back. So these people have been fighting. I don't know. But the real answer comes in. If you say, Iwe rumtenges, indika kuti rumtenges, status, to be started one. And when you came here, you were saying, Mandras, you were not here, you were not amused, aren't it? But if we started by exchanging, I'm not going to talk. So if people are not prepared to be mature enough to sit down and say, our house is on fire, let's put off the fire and talk. You watch it. We are going nowhere. Because you are busy, you are also helping with busy with who wrong. I'm not looking for who is wrong, because everyone has wronged someone somewhere throughout the process. I'm looking for an answer. How best do we come out with a united, the best united position? It might not be the best, but a reasonably united position where we agree you wakatadzachi tatadzirana. But don't you see wanyanyira mwako? This is an opportunity for people to come together and say, chiona zvawakaita uyu, amona kuti wakarasira mwe. Kana wamudzinga after 20 years of commitment in the party, then suddenly I become your enemy. Do you think it's nice? How many people have been in the party for 20 bloody years, and today they are being told sellout? And have I a right to call someone a sellout? Who knows exactly what you do at night and what you do during the day? Because that person with that mentality might be the worst sellout. But we don't know how they manage those things. So once you call someone a bad person, talk to him. Have you talked to him? I don't see that coming from my colleagues to say, let's talk to each other. Let's find each other. Let's see where you are not happy. It's not a matter of you doing wrong only. If you've done something wrong to me, I want you to talk to me and say, sorry, even in marriages there are problems. People talk. If you don't talk, you are divorced. So to avoid a total divorce, people have to talk. But you also don't forget one thing. This is a country where we are dealing with a government which is very strong militarily. It's not easy to take over power if you start statecraft without government accepting, the military accepting. So you still need to negotiate your power around the military and other securocrats. You also need to negotiate your power around the elders in the villages. You need to negotiate your power within the other disadvantaged groups that you might not want. It's not about one person being right. It's about people appreciating that you are a leader who can accommodate everyone. And also, our party does things differently. It must do things differently, that they can accommodate each other, they can work with each other, and they can get to a situation where even when they've differed, they will come back together. It has taken some of our colleagues to come back after so many years, but they seem to be now the fundis of MDC, and they want everyone else out. Is that good? How do you think a person who has spent 20 years in one home and you are told, Chibuda pants, sleep outside?
The factions within MDC, how do you think the ruling party has benefited from that?
You know, any opposition party, not necessarily ruling, will benefit from the differences of the other party being disjointed. We joined ZANU when the coup was done. We joined them to say Mugabe must go, didn't we? The populace of the country joined to say no, Mugabe must go. We thought we were resolving something. I don't know whether we have resolved it. We haven't. So sometimes the other party enjoys, but you don't know the outcome. So if you work around your outcome well, you might still be strong. You don't run away. There is always a game. The opponent will always play a game within your game. That is normal. Don't expect them to be saints. And even within our politics, there's been so many crooked things that have happened. And those crooked things, you know them. And when you know them, you want to bless them just because you think you want to displace the other. That's not good. You cannot commit incest in your home, then you say, be a saint outside. Incest is not acceptable in our culture. So don't do incest and say, when you're outside, no, we don't abuse girls.
Let's go back to the issue of dialogue. Do you think this is going to happen within your party, as a senior member of the party, as a person who works with these people politically daily? Do you think you are able as a team to sit down on the same table and talk and rebuild your party?
Dialogue is not a one-day affair. It's a long process. But for now, you look for those people with like minds. They have to be told that let's do this. And by now we have a timetable with the judgment. The judgment is something that you cannot run away, my friend. If you go to court on maintenance, if you don't pay maintenance, no matter whether it's your child or not, they will take whatever they will take from you. So I'm just saying, you have to comply because you have been to the court. If you haven't been there, you don't have to comply with something that you didn't go for. So this is where we are. Now, we are trying to negotiate within a very short time. But dialogue will always be there. Whoever believed that Welshman will come to an alliance with Morgan over all the years, whoever thought it will come after they all abused him? You remember them saying Morgan is worse than Mugabe, some of them. But they came back and said, sorry. So I'm not that kind of politician who wants to come and say sorry. I'm that kind of politician who say, I said it. This is where we should be. This is what we should have done, and we should do it now. But if someone is not prepared to do it now, there is nothing I can do. I'm not God. I can only do what I can. I can only persuade my colleagues. I can only persuade you as a journalist to say, why don't you see reason in persuading these people to sit down and talk? What makes it so difficult for the other party to talk? Leadership is about talking to those people you even think are your enemies. You talk to your friends, you talk to those things. I don't mind talking to anyone. I can be anywhere. I am not afraid of anyone. And I take myself as a leader, and I take myself as a nationalist. I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not afraid of any government. I will tell it as I think. But sometimes I don't talk because it's like you are washing your linen in public. You have to preserve your home. You have to preserve your institution. But those institutions must be cleansed of the evil that is perpetuated within the other downtrodden people within that institution.
What do you think should be done by the leaders within MDC and its supporters not to do so that this continues to divide the party? What is it that they should do as individuals to say, this is my contribution in rebuilding MDC?
I once said, if only we could say the truth for 3 months, these 3 months, just inside ourselves, just to be honest and do the right thing that your conscience tells you. And you say, I don't want to lie to my colleagues. It will make a difference. But we have values in the party. Our party has values. It's talking of genuine democracy, not chikuruku. And chikuruku chawandisa ma political parties. Sometimes they don't do proper primaries, sometimes they don't do proper congresses. Chikuruku ichocho, if we were to do it properly, someone will feel proud that I'm a leader. Don't do crooked things. Because yes, sometimes politics is never for angels. But you must build families within this politics. That's why in America, when you come up with the presidential bill, they say, your mates doesn't add up. Don't just say, I'll come up with this budget. How does your mates add up? Where are you going to get your taxes? Where are you going to get this? So if you cannot have your mates adding up, don't just think you can lead. You must have your mates adding up on saying, I need to please all sectors of the community. I need to work with them. But you don't need to love them all, but you need to appreciate their interests. So we need to appreciate each other's interests. We are a diverse community. And we also need, even ZANU, we have to appreciate that this is not every time it's noise. It doesn't help. And the common man suffers. The common man is expecting us to deliver. The common man is expecting us to do best practice, which is done internationally. Election, whether they step down in other countries. You don't continue to go to Ndora. We must also think around those things. Once you go, will not try a time, whether white was say, you must be able to say, someone tried. I think we will be now going to, I nearly did it. Where would Clinton be? Because Clinton did beat Trump in terms of numbers. She would still be there because I had more numbers than Trump, so I'm the only one who can beat it. So let's come out of this culture of thinking that people vote for individuals alone. They also vote for institutions. And now they are looking up to us as MDC. But what are we coming up with? These brickbats of attacking each other on the internet, attacking each other on the WhatsApps. It doesn't help us. A smart person will really sit down and call each other and say, what do we do? Yes, the young kids will do Gozhekungombe, but this is Tawan Wakuru. Even our churches must help us. Our other institutions like chiefs must help us. And business people must help us to say, this is an institution we might want preserved. How best do they talk to each other? Approach the mountains. Now, right now you were asking me if I phoned Nelson. You must go and ask him, have you ever phoned Mudzuri? Just to talk to him. Have worked together. You must ask him. Don't go one side. There is no mountain here. We have been at equal level for some time, and I've been his senior before that. So we are one MDC. Monzora is still a member of MDC. Coupe has been brought back to the MDC. So what we need now is to talk like judgment bearers. It's a judgment which says you are factions. Go and talk. Go and find a mediator and talk. And that is what I think we need.
And maybe as a journalist, when I'm asking Mudzuri questions, I direct them to Mudzuri, not to Nelson. So there's no way that I'll ask Nelson when Senator Mudzuri is sitting there.
That's why I say
But
maybe you must
yeah,
also
yeah,
ask
yeah,
him.
yeah,
I didn't say you have to,
yeah.
but I say you might also need to ask him.
And your last message to the MDC family as an elder.
I want MDC elders. We have what we call elders in the party to meet, discuss, show us what they think should be the way forward in terms of this. Responding to this judgment, which I think the response is already given, going to an extraordinary Congress. But how best do we handle it so that we are united, we get out better than what we are? It's not. I don't see it as a contest for MDC members to start campaigning. I see it as a chance for people to look at each other and say, maybe who is our best foot forward to make sure that we get there. We also need lack of greediness, just to see yourself in the mirror and say it's an opportunity. We also need not to fire people recklessly in parliament or deployees, but deployees must also understand that they have a duty to the people. They have no duty to an individual. So they have to respond to the people who elected them. They were elected as members of a political entity. That political entity is what has been in dispute. This is why we say the people were never explained that what was alliance, what was MDC, who left by track, right? And that agreement was never posted. But that agreement was signed in Rufaro Stadium. It's not Rufaro Stadium, Zimbabwe grounds. You remember the 7 political parties,
Yeah.
I think you were there. They signed that agreement is what has been binding the 7 political parties. But the changes that happened were worsened by that the court is nullifying Chamisa's presidency. When it nullifies, it means whatever he led the party to go is nullified. So we need to go back to the drawing board and organize ourselves and start ourselves with everyone within the MDC Shanghai family feeling wanted. Then we invite our colleagues who are already partners with us, the other alliance partners. We even still might have to invite the others. They have been left out because they didn't get members, but they also contested. So let's not blind ourselves that the contestation was outside the alliance agreement. It was within the alliance agreement. Then something happened. So those outfits have been taken away by this court judgment. So we need to relook. We don't pack your bags because somebody has died. You bury the person. You sit together as a family and say, "To go and say, guy go away.